Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Italy, a Place to Love YouTube channel. Now, thank you all for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel. And so, in today's video, I want to talk about default and bankruptcy. So basically, my question is, what if Italy goes in default or goes bankrupt? What might happen? What are the things to say about this topic? Now, the most important thing where I would like to start is about the debt. Okay, so basically, each country has its own debt. As we know, United States, UK, France, and Italy. But so, how much is the debt? Is the Italian debt? Okay, according to official sources, at the moment, the Italian debt, let's say, is nearly 4 trillions dollars. Okay, so we are talking a bit less than $4 trillion, 3,890 thousand dollars. So we are talking about big amounts, huge amount of money. And so this is a kind of topic that has been quite often discussed in the Italian television, but not only. For example, I know that Italy in the last 20 years in particular, so since year 2000, the finger had been pointed towards Italy many times, in particular from the European community, let's say, because the European community always said that, oh, you are doing very bad, your numbers are not good, so we have the public debt to GDP ratio that actually at the moment it's showing like 160%, which is quite high, is one of the highest in between the countries in the world. I think there are a few countries who have higher debt, like Japan. Japan has public debt to GDP ratio, which is 288%. So it's more than double than the Italian debt. Back to the fact, anyway, that Italy has been pointed as a very bad student, let's say. Okay, you should have cut this debt, you should have done something to reduce the amount of debt. And this had been pointed always from the European community. So we know that the amount of money of the Italian debt is huge. We know that the GDP ratio, the public debt to GDP ratio, is very high. So we are paying very high interest on our debt. And so let's say that for the last 25 years, Italy had this finger pointed several times. Now, I cannot even mention how many times I've seen on the news that Italy might go bankrupt, for example. Now, what if Italy goes bankrupt, and so on. So this is something that we question a lot in Italy, that we discuss. Is a very huge hot topic. It's something that we constantly discuss every day, nearly, even in the families. But the key point starts for me from abroad. So starts from other countries which are pointing the finger to Italy and saying, you are a bad student, you are not doing your homeworks, you should have cut this debt, and so on. Now, about this, I want to go back to the 2008 Great Recession. Now, because the 2000 Great Recession had been a particular moment in all the economy, all over Europe, all over the world. Many countries suffered for from the recession that we had. This bank in the United States, the Lehman Brothers Bank, which went in default, and that the system simply melted down. We had stock market crash, properties crashed, but also in Europe, many countries have been in default. So they defaulted, many countries. And I want to spend few words about this because usually it all the world or in all the world, and this is I'm trying to go a bit in favor of Italy. Now, in all the world, if we are talking about, if someone was asking which countries defaulted in 2008 recession in Europe, now they used to call the pigs, PIIGS, okay? Which were these countries? Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Spain, and Greece. This is what has been called now. I know Ireland because I was living in Ireland, so the Irish government defaulted, went in default. The Spanish government default. The Greek government and country defaulted, and also Portugal. So these four countries defaulted. Now, why in this basket they always also put Italy? Now, if you are not aware, the answer might be straightforward and clear. Because also Italy defaulted. But the answer, also Italy went in default, but the answer is no. Italy didn't default in 2008. So there is this legend around the world which says that Italy defaulted, went in default in 2008. So I don't know. In Italy, we know we never default, but somewhere around the world, Italy is always put in this basket of these five countries. Now, let's say a few things now about this. Now, we have Ireland, we have Portugal, we have Spain, and we have Greece, which have defaulted. Now, these countries had been rescued, okay, by institutions who financially helped to save from the default. Now, did you ever heard about the Troika? La Troika. Now, La Troika means three institutions who went to help these countries. Now, when we are talking about the Troika, we are talking about the European Commission. We're talking about the European Central Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Okay, so these three institutions put money on the table to save these countries, these four countries, but which also Italy is put in this basket. But these three institutions, they never helped Italy because Italy never went in default. Okay, so this is something that I want to try to explain because many people around the world think that also Italy default. And now I'm telling you why technically Italy cannot even go in default. I'm going to explain you why if Italy goes in default, I mean, this is going to be a disaster for the entire planet. And I'm not exaggerating, okay? Now, I'm telling you why. Now, Italy is one of the biggest economies in the world. Is part of the G7, G8, you know. Italy, anyway, has a very high gross domestic product, so is in between, anyway, the most powerful countries. Consider that, anyway, before us, there are only countries like France, UK, India, Japan, United States, and China. So by GDP. So technically, what does it mean this? It means that if Italy defaults and is coming this institution, this troika, to save the Italian country, Italy goes in default, Italy needs money. Now, I'm telling you that is not enough. All the money of the ECB, of the European Central Bank, of the European Commission, and all the money of the International Monetary Fund, all of these three together don't have enough money to cover the debt that Italy has if it goes in default. Okay? So basically, if Italy defaults, it means that also all the most important institutions are gonna default to save Italy. That's why it's impossible to save Italy if Italy defaults. I mean, I think it's quite clear this message that I want to explain here on the video. Now, I'm not saying that the situation of Italy, wow, is good, is fantastic. Actually, no, the situation is not good at all because Italy is not doing anything to cut this debt. Then the following question should be, how can we cut the debts? How can we cut debts? Now, to cut debts, technically, it's always kind of very easy, very simple. So cut the expenses. Now, if in Italy we start cutting expenses, which we had been actually doing for the last 20 years, we sold, the Italian government sold a lot of companies that used to belong to the government just to collect money. They cut on the health system, they cut on military expenses, they cut, actually military expenses maybe is where they cut less than anywhere, but let's say that where they cut most of everything was always like health system, healthcare system, and the school institution, so education. To say what we cut more is education, also pensions, for example. They constantly cut and tax pensions. That's why we never seen pension increasing, for example. Even they slightly increase. Anyway, to cut the debt, you need to cut as well your expenses, to reduce your expenses, and that's where the only way that we have. Then, obviously, since Italy entered in the Eurozone, we lost the sovereignty of our currency, which before we had the lira. Doesn't matter if it was a weak currency or not, but anyway, we could have devalued our currency simply to start exporting more. This had been the Italian system for ages, for the last 40, 50, 60 years. What Italy was doing when we were sovereign of our currency, if we needed more money, we were simply devaluating our currency. Devaluation of the currency, it was so moving the Italian industry. So that's why we became, for example, Italy used to be very industrial country because we were exporting a lot. We were not importing that much because when you have a weak currency, to import goods, it turns to be extremely expensive. So people are going to pay if in Italy in the 80s you had bought a German car, you would have paid a lot of money. If you were buying an Italian car, that car would have been cheap. And also because we were producing a lot, we had very low unemployment, exporting a lot, selling a lot, so we were always generating income, and so the revenue overall was always in plus. Even if we were increasing, the GDP was always 3 or more percentage. The percentage of the GDP was even 4, 5, 6 I remember days in Italy where the GDP was growing of the 10%. Then, since we entered in the Eurozone, it started like stagnation in Italy. The GDP stopped growing. Our export increased a lot, so we start producing less. So everything start kind of crashing, melting in the Italian system. Now, let's say that there's not really a way out. I mean, there are way out. I might make videos about how to understand if Italy, for example, there is an important video that I should make. What if Italy makes default for real? What are the alternatives to pay back this debt? Now, I'm not gonna talk in this video because if I open this chapter, and there are ways anyway for the Italian government and for the Italian people to close the debt, even to close the debt, but I'm not gonna make it now. For sure, what I want to repeat and put the accent in this video is that if Italy goes in default, okay, if it does default, there's no saint, there's no anyone who can help Italy, can rescue Italy from the default. It's not like Ireland, Spain, Greece, or Portugal who arrived, these institutions, as I said before, European Commission, ECB, and IMF, they came, they gave the money, they say, okay, you pay back in 20 years, in 30 years, and then you are fine. Obviously, you have to be able to repay back, which, for example, Ireland have done extremely well. Spain is doing well. Portugal also is. Actually, Spain at the moment is the economy that is growing more than anyone. But if Spain didn't default in 2008, or if anyone rescued Spain, now Spain would be completely on their knees. Was rescued by this troika, by these three institutions. The only one who didn't do the homework properly was Greece, that between 2011 and 2014 they kept exceeding in their debt. But now, for example, after cuts after cuts, they've been able anyway, people are suffering anyway. If you ask to Greek people, they had kind of flooding of people leaving the country, so pensions were cut badly. So there are the tools, the instruments in case of default, how to rescue the situation. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk in this video today what Italy should do in case of default, or if Italy can default. What I wanted to explain up to now is that up to now Italy never have done default. All right, my friend, I hope it wasn't too much complicated video, but it's a hot topic. I see many channels on YouTube and on internet talking about a hypothetical Italian default. So then nowadays it's not anymore only Italy, thanks, but we also have UK and France, which are in a very bad situation, similar to Italy. To not talk about the United States with the massive debt, but United States is a sovereign country. You have your own currency, so you have your ways anyway if you want to go out. And then there is the dollar institution, which is the petrodollar, and this currency that is the world reserve currency. So I'm not gonna enter into this topic now. Anyway, my friends, I hope you have enjoyed this video. So one and many more videos to come also about the economy, and in the following one I will tell you what Italy can do to cancel the debt. Let's say, does Italy have the tools to cancel this nearly $4 trillion debt? My answer is yes. It's a bit complicated, it's not really realistic, but technically it's possible. Alright, my friends, I'll see you here on Italy A Place to Love YouTube channel to my next video. Have a nice day. Bye!